We wrap up the opening weekend of the CPL with match night. Rainy day in Vancouver didn't dampen the spirits of Mauro Eustachio and York United as they pull off a victory. Julian Altobelli getting a brace here to open things up. Every single team has now played to kick off season 7. And welcome to the first match night. Andy Petrillo, Gareth Wheeler, and Christian Jack with you. This is going to be a one and done for me, but I absolutely love being here.
You're never going to come back to
Maybe.
match night.
I knew you were waiting to do that. 9 goals have been scored on opening weekend. We saw 2 reds, could have seen a third. I'm sure, we showed you that in the halftime. But either way, it was an exciting weekend. Only one game ended in a draw, but that was a very exciting game. It was the opening one between Atletico, Ottawa, Halifax. We're going to go through everything, but we're going to start with the game that we just watched. KJ, what are your first impressions of York under their new head coach?
The right team won. They had to dig deep and wait a while. The game had some fleeting moments in the first half. Potential penalty, Leon, a little bit clumsy, not a penalty for me. And then as the game wore on, Vasco Fry with an elbow. We talked about it at halftime. Looks probably worse more and more you see it, to be frank. Yeah. Gets away with one there. But, that moment summed up York, where they didn't necessarily get around the referee. They showed tremendous emotional control. They stuck with it. Callum Irvin made some big saves. And what about the new manager, Mauro Eustachio, making big moves with Altobelli comes on and scores with his first touch. Your first substitution as a professional coach, manager, and you get a substitute comes on and does that. So, Altobelli is always going to be a striker that would score goals at this level. I think the second one I like even better. And in the end, they took advantage of a sloppy performance by the home team, but very worthy 3 points for the away team.
What's even more incredible about Altobelli scoring on his first touch, this is his second go-around with York United, and this was his first touch on the ball.
Yeah, 20. He didn't play.
And he didn't play. And it goes into the back of the net. So a feel-good story. Played for Toronto FC and MLS Next Pro last season. Was the captain and had a breakout campaign. Starts this one on the bench, but it makes you think about York United and how they've gone about this rebuild, because that's what this is. Like the entire front line, and Shola Jimo, a teenage player that's remained with the club. But there's some real depth of talent here, and the fact that the manager in his first season at the helm makes those big changes, and it changes the game. It looked like Callum Irving wasn't going to be beat, but that was inevitably what separated these two sides. A lot of mistakes both ways, very sloppy. York, the deserved winners here. They just have more quality in the team. They were better organized, and they deserve to come away with the
more quality, more experience. I thought Adekubi and Yates were excellent in midfield as well during the game. And Vancouver, again, it's a humbling day for them, because this is a team that preaches that they want to produce good young Canadian players to maybe move on. But at some point, you've got to ask yourself, well, you want to win games as well and produce the ability to get people in the stands and get points to move forward. So, look, it's one game, no overreactions, but they'll be disappointed in the manner in which they couldn't really get a foothold in the game.
No overreactions, but we do love what Altobelli was able to do today. So he's got to feel good, and I'm sure York fans would like to see more of that moving forward. How does he feel about his brace? Alex Gange-Ruzic caught up with him after the match.
Julian, it's 3 points on the road. It's a wet one. What'd you make of that one?
Oh, it's amazing. We all worked so hard to compete and win this game, and we came out here and did. And for me, my goal was to come on and change the game, and I did so with the 2 goals, so I'm happy.
2 well-taken goals. I mean, talk us through the first one. Tight angle, loose ball. What kind of happened there?
Yeah, I knew that the ball was falling weird for their center back, and I knew he kind of just had to get a touch to it. And I just pounced on the rebound, first touch of the game, and it was a goal, so I'm very pleased.
Second one, you dribble pass, open up space. Will you shoot? Will you pass? Tight angle, good finish. Is that something you've been practicing?
Yeah, of course. I love to cut it on my right foot and kind of whip it to that far post. So I've been training that all season. And again, I'm very, very happy with the result.
You said it, you're on the bench waiting for that impact. You come in, you get it. What's that kind of like for a striker, sitting there, seeing the game develop? Did that kind of what was kind of going through your mind in that regard?
Yeah, well, I think for any forward to be on the bench and you kind of analyze the game and see spaces and stuff like that. So as a forward to come on and score a goal, it's everyone's dream. And for me to score 2, I'm extremely happy.
You guys got a competitive group deep at all positions. Just what do you make of the competition we've seen so far in preseason and seeing that into the first game?
Yeah, the competition with the squad is amazing. There's so much depth to this team that anyone can kind of break into the 11 at any point. So continue to work hard and continue to impress the coach and hopefully break into the 11 in the upcoming weeks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What are your expectations here for York, KJ, when you look at this team that's brought in a lot of local talent and even alluding to there, maybe some depth better in those positions that weren't there before? They're trying to make the playoffs for the third straight year. Can they do it?
Absolutely. I think they'll be very disappointed at the end of the season if they don't. I mean, they've gone from the 5th spot to the 4th spot and been involved in both the 4-5. When asked in pre-season what Mauro Eustachio's ambitions were, he didn't go as far as saying that that would be the next step to go third. He doesn't want to put too much pressure on his team right now. But I think that's got to be the internal goal, is compete for trophies and figure out how you continue to get closer to the top 2 in the league. But this is their first win away from home by 2 goals since May 2023. That just goes to show you that these kind of performances don't come around that often. It's not easy to win away from home in the Canadian Premier League. We saw last year Halifax Wanderers and Patrice Geyser go out on a West Coast trip very early in the season, and already that started a little bit of a spiral for them. So it just goes to show you how important a good start is. And as I said earlier, I thought they were excellent, and they got, their strength in depth with CPL experience. And Mauro Eustachio is not one for hyperbole, but he was very, very confident in the early season, preseason, some of his interviews, and you could see it why today.
They have a chance to cement some kind of identity here at the club. They've changed managers. I think the style of play has changed. But the Pascal brothers, the owners of York United, it was their first year in charge last year. They changed the manager part way. They had a manager leave at the end of the season. They've been able to be more surgical in the way they go about building their squad. And clearly there's going to be the Mexican influence. That's a market that they know, players that they know. But now they brought character players to the club from the Toronto area who want to fight for the badge, for their family, for their community. These sorts of things matter. So style of play, all of these things will take their form and take their shape over time. I just like the direction that the club is going. I feel like they're finally on some solid footing in terms of what they're trying to build. And having that identity off the field can go along to creating synergy on the field as well.
Altobelli said he wants to crack that starting 11, and when you look at the goals that he scored here today, I mean, he keeps doing that, KJ. You have to imagine Mauro can't ignore him.
They didn't sign him to be an impact sub. Now, Adonai Jarry did okay, but he almost played as a false 9. Yep. Altobelli is a 9. Okay, there's no false 9 about him. This is a striker who scores with one touch, and again, you can see how lethal he was. Shola Jimo, again, very direct. I think there's a lot to like about the way Bitar and particularly Ferrin played. Ferrin gave Dana Luke a real handful. It's a good one-on-one matchup. But you can just see the way he strikes that ball. You don't get many people hitting balls like that in the Canadian Premier League and finishing that off. So Altobelli, again, another great acquisition. They've recruited really, really well and smart. And they'll be delighted. And the other thing, too, is their home form last year was a lot better than any year before. So if they can pick up points away from home, then that looks like a playoff team.
You can't rely on your 11 or 14 in this league. You need a squad. It's a marathon. The travel, the different surfaces, it's exceptionally difficult. And now you have different players for different moments. Yates, a very different midfielder than Atakubi, who was very good today. If you want to bring in Jimo for Bitar or Ferrin, maybe a player that's more comfortable playing a little bit wider, KJ. So it's different types of players as well. It's about finding that balance. So far, so good. Again, we're not going to go
still
over.
No Stirring, by the way, yeah, that can help him in the back.
Weird that he wasn't available as well. I mean, when Stirring is fit, he's a top defender in the Canadian Premier League as well. So although some pieces are still late to the dance, the goalkeeper did well today. He's not going to be the presumed number 1 going forward. So there's still a lot to be determined, but so far, so good. They got the job done today against, let's be honest, a poor Vancouver FC side. But you'll see the result. They'll bag the 3 points. They'll be thrilled with it.
Well, let's turn our attention to Vancouver because, I mean, is it too early to be concerned? I mean, did they show you who you think they will be for the rest of the season, or is this just a case of York, besting them?
It's the one club, and I know when a lot of us have been asked about our season predictions, Vancouver will put 8th. And the reason isn't because we're trying to belittle the players or question the quality. We just don't know. They announced 4 new signings today, and then Mosqueda, the former Vancouver Whitecaps player, coming back to Canada. So that's 5 new players in today that weren't available. It's like this club has gone young, but they're still bringing in players, and the season is starting, and certainly players will be going out as well. Quintav wasn't part of the match day squad, and so it's like the deck is still being shuffled here. This is year number 3 for this club. You'd expect or maybe want a little bit more continuity, but it's very difficult to determine what that direction is going to be at present time.
You mentioned it. The continuity is a problem. They've had 45 players play for that club before today in the last 2 seasons alone. And then we're going to go through again where we're probably going to average at least another 15 new players this year. Again, so what are we going to get to? Potentially 60 players who play for that club inside 3 seasons. That's difficult to do in a lot of ways. It's difficult to get any kind of harmony on the field. It's difficult for any manager to try to coach that. It's difficult for a fan base to connect with players. So look, there's a lot of work to do there. You know, there's a bit of concern for me when I hear things like Rocco Romeo leave the club this offseason and then say, I want to go to a place where I want to contend now for trophies. When Afshin Gotbi is asked in the offseason, their number 1 priority as a club is to sell players. It is to move young Canadians on. That's what they want to be known for. I understand that, and I think they can do a good job of that. But you have to play them. And when you play them, you're going to lead to issues like this. I mean, Grady McDonald, they got the transfer last season, which was great, but he didn't play that much last season either. He only played 14% of the CPL season. So what do you stand for? Playing these players or developing them and moving them forward? It's a difficult sell to a fan base to say, come and watch a bunch of teenage Canadians who we may not win a game.
And you feel for players like Callum Irving, who was great in the first half today. He's going to be a busy goalkeeper again because he represents a community. He's the captain. He is an experienced player and a leader. And players like that want to understand what they're fighting for and who's around them that you can trust and go to battle with game in and game out. And right now, when there is that lack of continuity, then it makes it very difficult. That's not to say that, these 3 or 4 or 5 players aren't going to come in and make a difference. Some of them are relative unknowns.
Absolutely.
So it's very early. This is why there's questions about what this team is going to be. And kind of a performance today, it was a little bit all over the place. They gave up so many chances in this game. So could it be more than 2, to be honest?
When I think Vancouver FC, I think big. I think it's a big place. You can get fans. I think they could be a big club in the Canadian Premier League one day, but it's quite a long way to go right now.
Going through it right now.
No, they dropped their opening game. So 2-0, that's the final between York United and Vancouver. So the 9 Stripes walking away with the victory on the road. When we come back here on Match Night, we'll take a look at the other 3 games that were played. The triple header yesterday on opening day. That was a marathon, Wheels. And I had to see you again today.
I had a great time hanging out with you. By the way, we're turning the new studio into a short-term rental.
Yeah,
we just don't leave.
No, we just don't. BFFs. Refresher on the scores from opening weekend. Halifax had the 2-0 lead before Ottawa launched its comeback. Forge taking the lead. Mo Babouli getting the goal for them. Pacific never looking back, 2-0 over Valour, and same here with York. So we only saw a change in scores in that very first game. So the early leaders have York, Pacific,
Go on,
Forge
York
up
United.
there.
Come on, York.
Okay.
Oh, Pacific are joint, right? 2?
They're right up there, yeah.
2-0?
So they've all
Go on, Pacific.
Just go you, whoever you are. If you're in the lead, Gareth is going to cheer for you. And Altobelli, so far, as you heard them say on the broadcast, leading the way for the Golden Boot race with his 2 goals. But let's go to that second game of the triple header yesterday. It's Forge and Cavalry. It's the 2 heavyweights of the league. KJ, you were there pitch side. Forge getting the win there. How were the coaches feeling after that one? Just what was the general vibe between the 2 teams?
Well, I have to say, I thought it was an outstanding game of football for the first game of the season, which I think across all Canadian Premier League this weekend, for a league that's been off for the majority of 5 months, to come back and deliver the quality on the pitch that we've seen from the nation's capital, first of all, we'll get to in a second, and then this game. I know it was a bit of a slow burn in terms of chances in the first half, a typical chess match where, you may not want to get out your queen and your bishops, but, Yassin Kalela was absolutely brilliant in terms of starting off the new season where he left off last season. Arguably the best goalkeeper in the Canadian Premier League in the second half of last season, and he kept his team in it. And this is what you wanted. Mo Babouli, I think more than any player, probably needed that goal. It's a tremendous header as well, and one that Cavalry would be a little bit disappointed about. Conceded a little bit of goals like that in the preseason, just a quick header and falling asleep. But look, they created enough chances. What did I learn is what you asked me. So I'll say, look, as a talent evaluator, when you think about analyzing, you talk about floor and you talk about ceiling, right? So for me, this team, both these 2 teams, as we see Bruno get sent off, nowhere near at their best right now. Nowhere near at their best. It's game 1 of 28, almost preseason mode.
Yes.
As Kalela continue to make saves, as I continue to give my point. But my point is that Forge and Cavalry at the floor right now is still better than every other team in the Canadian Premier League ceiling. That's how good they are. And that's on the other 6 Canadian Premier League teams to climb and get anywhere close to what we're seeing from those 2 teams. There's a reason why they're always winning trophies, the quality and the managers that they bring, the commitment to playing football the right way. It was just a tremendous advertisement for the league.
It was a slow burn at the start, but there were moments in the game, wasn't it? The sending off, the saves, the chances late. Let's start with Cavalry. I think they might be a better attacking side this season than they are defensive side. That's maybe the first time we've been able to say that over the course of the 6 previous years in the Canadian Premier League. They've so many players that can attack in a different way. They're unlucky not to find the back of the net. They won the XG battle in this game, 24 shots. I want to see Elva play a whole lot more. Man, he's such an intriguing player. And I just think that the best is yet to come. The craziest statistic in the Canadian Premier League, in the history, is the fact that Cavalry have yet to win a CPL game in the month of April. Yeah. How does that happen? Yeah. Like, you know, the joint best team, whether you put Cavalry or Forge, that
to be fair,
matter.
they never played one in 2020, 2019, and 2021. But yeah, in April.
But just take the point, KJ. Beyond that, I mean, I don't think Cavalry are without concerns. The fact that Eric Cobbs has done his metatarsal, haven't really replaced Dan Klump. Diego Gutierrez is out in the midfield. They bring in Baldissimo, who's a great player, but a different type of player than Gutierrez. And Charlie Trafford retires. This is like 3 of your top 5 players in terms of minutes last season. And you need the depth of talent to get through the season. I just worry about them a little bit at the back. For Forge, I don't think it was vintage Forge. I still think it's going to take some time. They have 3 new defenders in their back 4. That's going to take time for them to come together and gel. But they have reliable players and star players that rise to the moment, even when they're not at their best. Like Mo Babuli, what wasn't his best game, but this is what he is in the CPL.
He's a great header.
He's a difference maker. He's a great header. You know, the fact that Ashni Odianson clears the ball off the line. Kyle Becker, every game he plays in, he's a star performer and as reliable as they come. As long as these pillars of Forge continue to play and continue to play at a high level, you talk about that ceiling, it's still exceptionally high because of them, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah. And I think Cavalry, sorry to interrupt, I'm hearing they're getting a defender. They were needing one. They didn't know whether they get one in the summer. Cobbs breaks his metatarsal. I think one's coming in as early potentially as this week, maybe an academy player from West Ham, so keep an eye on that.
Ooh. All right, well, the big question we were also asking at the offseason and in all of our CPL preview shows was who's going to challenge Forge and Cavalry, because it seems pretty unanimous that these are still the 2 teams you have to knock off the pedestal. And when you look at that first game, the way Ottawa and Halifax played, would you say, KJ, I mean, could those teams be challengers here for the other 2?
There's a lot to like about the way they played. Again, open game of football, a really, fast pitch, which certainly helped after, what was a torrential downpour. Credit to the thousands of fans who went there and watched it, even the ones who hiding behind and keeping dry. We knew you were there, almost 6,000 people in the nation's capital, when also a red-hot Senators hockey team's playing at the same time. So well done for going out watching some Canadian Premier League football. But no, I was very impressed with Halifax. Sean Rea was excellent, and that's a great goal. And a full season of Rea, you're salivating at that if you're a Halifax fan.
John,
they'd be very disappointed the way that they let the 2 points go. And for me, I know Patrice Geiser said after the game that he didn't feel like it was a game where any team dropped 2 points. I think if you're leading by 2 in the second half away from home, and by the way, that's only happened twice last season in the entire Canadian Premier League, where a team gave up 2 goals to not win. You'd be disappointed you not get the 3 points, but there's still a lot to like about it. And I think, as you guys alluded to yesterday in coverage, this looks like a different Ottawa team. Mejía's brought a bit more of an attacking thrust. His subs made a big difference, just like York's did today. Aparicio came on, was brilliant. Sissoko as well. Rodriguez, arguably one of the best players of the week in the Canadian Premier League. So a lot to like about the attacking style of football, and overall just a fantastic game of football, Wheels.
The problem with Halifax, and I don't think they're bad. I mean, Caligari, Johnston, Rea in the middle of the park. I mean, that's a foundation that they'll live and die with this season. Mekadech, Dunn, 2 players that would presumably start in the back 3, not available. I think this Halifax team, to answer your question, Andy, I think they can be good enough to challenge, but they need to evolve. I think defending in wide areas, the system that Geiser's playing, he has 2 wingers playing, and they were abdicating their defensive duty at times.
Well, Ottawa kind of did the same with Dos Santos on the right. So
both teams were doing it.
It was excellent.
I don't know if it was by design, but it made for a thrilling game to watch. But you come out of it saying, well, it's the same old Halifax Wanderers. a team coughing up leads, a team that can't win at the start of the season, went 9 without a win, back-to-back years, 20 over the last 2 seasons, and a team that can't win away from home. They have 1 win away from home. Yeah. And here, they have a 2-0 lead in the second half. At that point, if I'm Patrice, I park the bus a little bit. I just do. I like play a little bit of a different way, understand we have a 2-goal lead. Against an Atletico Ottawa team, by the way, who impressed me. I thought they'd be good this season, but I was reserving judgment for later. But this was a team that started the game, no Didic, no Aparicio, Sissoko was on the bench. Their new striker, Monty Patterson, was on the bench. They had so many absences. I was like, this is their second team playing. Yeah. Yet the way that they played, Carlos Gonzalez came to Ottawa in 2022 and changed the mentality around that club. They were going to be tough to beat, and it was good enough to win a Canadian Premier League Shield that year. After that, it was 2 years of playing scared. At the beginning of last season, they tried to play this free-flowing football. They lost 3 games in a row to York, Forge, and Cavalry. Whoop! Emergency break went on, and they just played not to lose. This was a team playing to win from the start of the game, by the way. And they got some players. David Rodriguez comes out of North Texas Soccer Club. He comes on loan from Liga MX. Yep. There is a rich vein of tradition of top players that have come out of that club. Brian Reynolds, Tanner Tessman, Ricardo Pepi. And Rodriguez looks a real deal. He was, I don't remember an Atletico Ottawa player last year, KJ, running at a back line like he did throughout the entire game for Atletico Ottawa. It was exciting, Andy. I love their style of play. And once they get all their players in the team, they're going to be a tough out. I love what Diego
Well, it's not just the players
here.
you mentioned. They've got 3 other players who still haven't gotten into the country yet. 2 of which are here now and should be here in the next few days. So that's really good too, as well. So I like that team. I like their recruitment as well in the offseason. Get Didic in there just to protect some of the young players at the back. And there's a lot to like in the nation's capital, the way they played.
Just both contenders. You can say it? Both potential contenders?
Or just
contenders
one?
For...
So win, like... top seed, regular season, Shield.
Who has a better chance
Cup?
of winning a trophy based on that first game than Ottawa or Halifax?
Ottawa, yeah.
I still like the Wanderers. I'm going to give him some time here.
Okay.
I like to see Coimbra back for Halifax. To get him playing as a 9. He's a big player for them.
All right. The third of the triple header was Pacific beating Valour 2-0. We know that our good friend Jordan Wilson is very high on Valour this year. Based on what you saw, though, I'm going to ask if you feel more encouraged by Pacific or concerned by Valour?
Very much more encouraged by Pacific, a team that I've liked a lot for many years. I've got a lot of time for the way that club is run. It's not always easy to recruit players. And I thought, you know, in football, you have to know your own limitations and you have to analyze your own team at a very accurate level, positivity or negativity, whether it's going right or wrong. What a strike by Ronan Krat, by the way. And I'll tell you what I like about bringing Ronan Krat and Marco Bustos into the team is it brings swagger. It brings confidence and some swagger. I'm not going to say arrogance, but some maybe tactical arrogance about them because they've got confidence about them that last year they lacked. Pacific last year were a team that struggled to score goals and evolved out of a 2021 team of real winners and champions into a bunch of teams that were a bunch of players that were too quiet and didn't have leaders. And the biggest leader was that man there, James Merriman. And both him and Jamar Dixon understood they had to go out and get players who could lead on the pitch with the shoulders high. And Quintana and Machado are 2 centre-backs who look really good and leaders in the back. They've lost the goalkeeper, but they've got a good goalkeeper in Anchor. And with Bustos and Krat, with Hurd playing as a 9 and suddenly creating that space, I like them a lot.
I'm with KJ on this. I'm excited now about this Pacific team. I had to see how it all came together. I just felt like last year, 27 goals in 28 games for Pacific. Like
it's amazing they made the playoffs.
They refused to attack. But Merriman had the same problem over the last 2 years. He didn't have attacking players he could trust. Hurd wasn't fit. Zanata was slow to settle. And now he adds reliable players in Krat and Bustos. I like the way you describe them because they have swagger. I like a little bit of arrogance, but it's done in a positive way. Montejano's coming in. All of a sudden, you have a completely different attacking unit this time around. And maybe that allows them to play in a little bit of a different way because the center backs are great. Ali Endom's going to be eased back into that equation as well. Greco Taylor, who, you know, Krat's going to get the attention because it was a superb finish, like wonder goal. But the service by Greco Taylor, a young Canadian player who I think is very good. They have depth at fullback. My only question about them is whether they have enough in the midfield to compete with the best throughout the season. That will flush itself out. But look, I entered this season thinking about Valour like it's a season of hope. Everyone hopes that Valour does well because they've never done it before. But the players themselves need to go and improve it. And for me, they were a step behind on intensity and ideas, on creativity. I expected them in a season where really the eyes of the Canadian Premier League are going to be on them for real positive reasons. People want to see them succeed. It was such a disappointing first game. I know Phil DeSantos isn't on the touchline for it, but especially KJ from an attacking perspective, it has to be better than that.
Yeah, I give them a little pass just because I don't think they started the game well. They concede the first, and then you get a goal like that. And it's just like, okay, when Kratz scores a goal like that, I mean, we're going to get into it later, whether he really meant it or not. But that's just, that's a difficult one to get back from, When you see a ball goal like that, that's pretty deflating.
We'll give them time, but like, in order to change hearts and minds, you need to prove it.
Yeah,
you need to go and prove it.
They do.
They'll do that next week when they play again.